The all-new Sigma 51.4 DGDN lens for the Sony E-mount and L-mount alliance. It is finally released. We've been waiting for this lens for years. At least seems like years. But is it a little bit too late? Well, before we get into that, here's some sample images. Talking about this lens, as you saw from the sample images, that the image quality is relatively good. You're going to find some chromatic aberration here and there, some green and purple fringing, but for the most part, it is well controlled. It is sharp in the center. Is it as sharp as the HSN variant that was for the Canon and Nikon mount? Hard to say. According to the MTF charts that I saw from Sigma, it's a little bit less than that, but it is sharper in the corners. I don't have a lens to compare it to, but I will say that this lens performs relatively well. Does it have any sort of distinct characteristics that make it stand out amongst other 51.4 lenses out there on the market? And I probably would say no to that. It looks good. It's a good workhorse lens, but it's not going to scream character. It's not going to scream, wow, there's something special about this image. If you want something more unique, get something vintage. If you want something modern, this might be a good option for you. Coming around $800 plus US dollars thereabouts, this is relatively affordable compared to what's out there on the market. Now, there are options from Samyang, and you have the Zeiss version out there, which rumor has it, based on the Sony Alpha rumor sites, there may be an update to that. Now, if that's true, if we get a chance to compare the two, I'll try to do that for you. But I think for the Sony mount version, it's going to be a tough contest. I mean, if budget's no concern, I would definitely recommend going for the Sony 51.2. I think it's just a superior lens, but it is definitely much more expensive. But if you are on a budget, this 51.4 will do relatively well. Now, the lens that I have with me here is a pre-production lens, so I'm not going to give you a full review in terms of performance, in terms of autofocusing speeds and all that, because that wouldn't be fair to this. But I will give you just my overall thoughts. It does focus relatively quick when it's working correctly, and I've had some hiccups here and there, but again, that is due to being pre-production. But overall, I would say that this is, according to the spec sheet that I saw, it has the same focusing motors that we're seeing in the 60-600 that I recently reviewed, which is a fantastic lens from Sigma. Probably, arguably, one of the best super telephoto zoom lenses out on the market, and a lens that a lot of you, if you're interested in that, should definitely try. This 51.4 though, it struck me as a good all-around lens. It didn't wow me, but I wasn't disappointed by it either. So that's kind of where I sit with this lens. But the question is, did this lens arrive to the market a little bit too late? I mean, look, we had the 85 1.4 that came out a few years ago. Then we had the 35 1.4. We had a 35 1.2. Then we had other focal ranges. Some were with question marks behind them, going, what was Sigma thinking? And others that did relatively well. But everybody has been waiting for the 51.4 and the 70-200 f2.8. The latter, we don't know if that's going to come out this year or not, but the 51.4 has finally arrived in 2023. And I feel like if this lens came out a few years ago, or at least 2 years ago, there'd be a lot more buzz and a lot more hype around this. But as it stands right now, I just feel like it might get lost in the conundrum of 50mm lenses out there on the marketplace. If you want to compare it to, let's say, its own DG-HSN lens, which is a phenomenal lens. I've tried it once. I don't own it, so I wasn't able to compare it to this, but it's a fantastic lens and it still holds up even in today's market. As a matter of fact, that lens, according to B&H Photo, is more expensive than this lens, and that's how many years old? And that's a testament to the quality and the performance of that lens and the optical quality, because it is beautiful. But I would say that if you are in the L-mount alliance, that's when it gets a little bit more interesting with this lens, because your only other option currently right now, well, there's two options for that matter, is the Leica Summilux 51.4, which is like, I think 5 times this price. And then you have the Lumix-S Pro 51.4, which is basically the same as the Summilux, just, different housing and optics might be a little bit less, but the groups, the elements, all that is still the same as the Leica. So that is a larger lens, and I'll compare it towards this. Now, I didn't take photos to compare it because I did not have the L-mount version for this review. That'll be coming very soon, and when it does, I will take that through its paces. So I don't think it would be fair to compare it because I was shooting with the A7R5 versus, let's say, a Lumix S1R or a Leica SL2. I just felt, let's go L-mount to L-mount, and we'll compare it that way. But this lens will definitely fit much better, I feel, in the L-mount than in the Sony E-mount camp. But it's the price point that is very attractive to this. And I think for a lot of you out there that are on a budget or are looking to pick up a really good performing, Sigma Art lens, which this is, and has really good optics for the price point, this might be a lens to definitely consider. But if you have a little bit more budget, then you have other offerings in the Sony camp that may be better than this. Maybe on the L-mount version, I'll like it a little bit more because there's not so much competition in terms of price point for this, where I think this will really stand out amongst what's currently out there. But in the Sony camp and the E-mount camp, I should say, it's going to be a tough battle. Anyway, if you like this video, subscribe to the channel, more content coming your way, and I will chat to you guys very soon. Take care.